Imilonji is going to help him stand up. Over.
What a great, great privilege it is to come and to meet with all of you, to seek to revive a body that, it worked. This is what helped us to survive. The SACC, no wonder they wanted to destroy it. No wonder they wanted to destroy it. They wouldn't have worried about things that don't do anything. The SACC helped us not only to survive, but ultimately to triumph.
In February 1978, the Minister of Plural Relations gave expression to the implications of the Verwoerd dream for South Africa. If our policy is taken to its logical conclusion, as far as the black man is concerned, there will be not one black man with South African citizenship. Their policy, apartheid and the Bantustan plan. Its logical conclusion, dispossession, impoverishment and dehumanization. 18 million blacks, 71% of South Africa's total population, had been allocated 14% of the land, fragmented into 10 Bantustans. Every black person would be compelled to accept citizenship of a Bantustan, and being deprived of all citizenship rights in the rest of South Africa, be tolerated as a guest worker, living in the Bantustan and entering South Africa as a migrant laborer. In the implementation of this master plan between 1950 and 1980, roughly 2,115,000 black people were uprooted from their homes in white South Africa and dumped in Bantustan relocation camps, similar to this one at Compensation in the Mpentle district of Natal.
Well, I've visited quite a few of these so-called resettlement camps, which is a nice name for dumping grounds for human beings who are uprooted from their former homes, where they lived as a family, near the place of work of the breadwinner, and they are dumped in these arid areas in the Bantustans. There is not very much work around the resettlement camps. There isn't very much food available. The able-bodied men are away working as migrant laborers, and the women and the old and the very young try to eke out a miserable existence. This particular visit to a resettlement camp outside Queenstown called Zweledinga, which in many respects was typical of all resettlement camps in its poverty, in the anguish of the people. I met a little girl who just came out of a shed in which she lived with a widowed mother and a sister. And I asked her, does your mother get a grant or a pension or something? And she said, no. Then I said, well, what do you do for food? And she said, we borrow food. And you look around the camp and wonder who would be able to lend anybody food, since their resources seemed so minimal. And I said, what happens if you can't borrow food? And she said, we drink water to fill our stomachs.
I beg them to stop that diabolical policy. I beg them.
At a public meeting
Because
in 1981, General Secretary Bishop
got.
Desmond Tutu reaffirms the commitment of the South African Council of Churches to opposing the grand design of apartheid.
I am going to do all I can. And if they want to know the direction in which I'm taking the South African Council of Churches, the direction is we are focusing on that homelands policy and the resettlement and uprooting of our people. That is where the SACC is going to be spending its resources to ensure that that policy is destroyed. I open this door so that all we who are God's servants may enter into this place of worship and dedicate ourselves in this house.
With the dedication of Khotso House Chapel comes the reaffirmation of the manifesto of the South African Council of Churches. The church exists first and foremost to praise and glorify God, and it cannot be otherwise for a council of churches. That is our first priority. We as a council believe that a true and relevant spirituality will make us do and say the things that we must do and say. We exist to help the churches in their search for this relevant spirituality.
The Son and the Holy Spirit, we, the people of Khotso House, dedicate ourselves, our talents and our programs to the service of God and of all his people in this land.
During 1982, more than 200,000 black people were arrested for past law offences. More than 12,000 victims of influx control regulations approached the Black Sash Advice Office at Khotso House for help.
I think you should go to legal aid first, and you can take this.
This situation can only get worse, as people, deprived of their South African citizenship and shunted into the poverty-stricken homelands, are forced by unemployment and starvation to risk prosecution under the influx control legislation in a desperate bid to feed themselves and their families.
December the 10th, 1982, is International Human Rights Day, the morning after the South African onslaught on Maseru. The silent vigil by the Black Sash, South Africa's enduring civil rights movement, is a haunting reminder of the diminishing human rights of 75% of South Africa's population. The central tenet of the International Human Rights Declaration provides that no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality. This declaration was prompted by concern over the withdrawal of Russian nationality from some 2 million political dissidents by the Stalin regime in the 1920s, and by the termination of the German nationality of all German Jews by Nazi decree in 1941. In pursuit of the logical conclusion to the grand apartheid design, that ultimately there will not be one black person with South African citizenship, 8 million black South Africans have thus far been denationalized. This is the central issue in the black man's struggle for survival in the land of his birth.
When I say there is nothing they can do to me, and I want to challenge them even today, I say there is absolutely nothing they will do to me which will stop me. The system tries all it can to destroy us. It won't succeed. I want to tell you, it won't succeed. It won't succeed. Because God is on our side. And he is the God of liberation. He is the God who's going to lead us, all of us in South Africa. For none is free until we are free. And I keep begging white people, I say, join us. Join the winning side. Join the winning side.
I would.
I want to warn them that if they touch the UDF, as they are preparing themselves to do, if they touch the UDF, then all the oppressed majority will conclude beyond doubt that there is no more a peaceful effort of changing South Africa. I thank you that you have made yourselves available again to God. Because we have an extraordinary God. You know, our God is omnipotent. You know that? Eh? Our God is omnipotent. And so, why is there so much evil? Our God is omnipotent, but our God is also weak. Our God is weak. Our God looks on as 6 million people are killed by those who claimed to be Christians. And our God cries. I think God spends a lot of time crying. I mean, you look at Central African Republic, Hauban. You look at South Sudan. You look at Syria. You, ISIS. It's God's children who stand with a person for 1 minute and then the next minute he has no head. And both are God's children. So God is saying, please help me. Please help me. Please help me. We were given this land. What a beautiful country. With beautiful people. See, Moshe Landu. God looks at South Africa and says, oh, I was so proud in 1994. I was so proud of South Africa. I was so proud when I saw them in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I said to the world, you see, look at my children. This is how I want you to be. What are we doing? Why are we doing what we are doing? Why? 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 But we're not going away crying. We have come here, we have come to be revived. And we thank you, church leaders, for agreeing. No, you didn't agree. You were the ones who said, we want the SACC back alive. And we want to give you as much support as we can, because we know just how God used us, every one of us. Every one of us. We were part of this struggle. Now we've got to be part of the building up of this beautiful land.